So far we've looked at different parts of a class. We looked at fields, instance variables to begin with. We looked at the definition of a class as well. And then we looked at constructors. So the last thing that we are going to look at is the methods or functions. Now, this is an important part because there's different keywords that we're going to use to be able to create different kinds of methods. Now, those methods are sometimes they have specific names to them. Um, so we'll make those clear in this part of the presentation. So far we have a few methods, right? We have fly, we have greet passengers, and we have a setter method. And the setter method sort of sets this name for our plane. Now there's other methods there that we can use. There's something called a getter method. A getter method, as you might guess, is similar to a setter method, but it gets something, it returns something for you. So let's say that all you wanted was just the make for this, say, airplane. So you would use something like get maker and then curly braces. But so far Java is going to be mad at you and it's going to say there is no return type. There's a return type required. So because you are getting something, this method is going to give you something back. So this method, in this case, we would expect to give us the string that's being stored in the variable maker. So we would say this method is going to return a string. The method is going to be called getMaker, and we are going to return the variable maker, which happens to be a string. Now, if you wanted to confuse a user, you could return something like just random name, say Toyota, and that would still work because you're still returning a string. But it's not what this method is supposed to do. This method says get maker. So you are supposed to just return the maker variable. Now, there's one more specific keyword that we're going to look at. There are public methods and there are private methods. Now, we can put public in front or private in front of a method. So it says this is a private method, it doesn't return anything, its name is set name, and it takes in some value and stores it in a variable called input name. We have a getter method. This is a public method. It returns a string. It is called getMaker. It takes in no parameters, and it returns the variable maker. What does public and private do? Well, we'll see when we go to main. We have set name to private, and now we are trying to use it somewhere outside of the blueprint of the class declaration. And it says that set name has private access, so it's not going to let me use it. I can't use it outside of this class. Could I use it inside of this class? Sure, I could. I could call, say, greet passengers and then say set name here, and then I could say at, that's completely fine. I'm calling that method from somewhere inside the class because it's private to this class only. But I cannot call it outside because it's not public. So we would have to change this to public for it to be able to call that outside of the blueprint. For other classes, we will go back and change those to public because we would like for the objects to be able to use them outside of this class. And we will then use our get maker. So system.out.println the maker for plane 3 is, and then I will say plane plane3.getMaker. This will return a string. This string will be added to this other string, and then this will become one full string and it will get printed by this. So we would expect at the end of this print line to have one last thing. The maker for plane3 is null. Why is it null? Well, there is at no point have we set the maker. And if you recall, this plane3 uses a one argument constructor, and the one argument constructor does not set maker. Could we give it some default name here? Default maker. We could. And in this case, if we ran it, then that default name is going to be printed. Now, ideally though, we wouldn't want to print out default maker. We will want to set that. So we can go plane3.setMaker. And it's going to tell us, cannot resolve. I don't understand what you mean by set maker in Airplane. There's no such thing. And if I go back, I'll notice, yes, you're right, there's no such thing. So I'm going to create a public set maker. And I know that this doesn't return anything. All it does is set a variable, so it's going to be void. And I need to create this parameter. So it's going to be set maker. Maker needs to be a string. So I'm going to say string input maker. Maker equals input. So whatever comes in through set maker, it's going to make it equal to maker. And I can now go back here and say Boeing. And now my last line should print what I'm looking for, which is plane3 Boeing. As you start playing around with methods, you'll be able to set things, get things, print things, do all sorts of calculations and methods. And methods are very powerful within a class because they are what gives the class the ability to do things with the data that's in the fields up at the top, or that was set by the constructors when it first was instantiated.